The Denver Broncos just got hit with some tough AFC West news. One of our biggest rivals, the team we all hoped would keep falling apart, suddenly looks like a real contender. That means 2 easy wins we were counting on might be off the table next season. But don't worry, we've got some good news too. The NFL is making big changes to refereeing, and there are updates on the future of free agents in Denver. There's a lot to break down. Before we jump into the latest news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, let's get into it. Alright, back to the big news. We were really hoping the Raiders would keep being the Raiders, making bad decisions and staying stuck in the same mess. Every year, they get their hopes up, but without a solid quarterback or a competent coach, they always collapse. They've even been paying coaches who aren't in the NFL anymore. But now, things have changed. Hiring Pete Carroll is a major upgrade for them. He's easily the best coach the Raiders have had in years. And now, there's serious talk that Matthew Stafford might join them as quarterback. That's a huge shift. Instead of Antonio Pierce's chaotic leadership and a weak QB lineup, they could go from a disaster to a team that wins at least 5 more games. Plus, they're getting Christian Wilkins back, and honestly, he might be better than even Chris Jones. And let's not forget, they already have one of the best tight ends in football, Brock Bowers. This is shaping up to be a real problem for the Broncos. For a while, it seemed like the Raiders were going to take a shot at Ben Johnson. Honestly, I still think he could turn out to be another overhyped coach like Mike McDaniels, great at first, but then losing control of the locker room. There was also talk about them making a move for Shedeur Sanders, Aaron Rodgers, or even Russell Wilson. And let's be real, nothing would have been funnier than a Pete Carroll-Russell Wilson reunion. We all know what Russell has left in the tank. Then we started hearing whispers about Geno Smith reuniting with Pete Carroll. But now, things are getting serious. With Tom Brady in the ownership group, everything changes. Having a strong owner can completely turn around a franchise, just like the Walton Penner Group did for Denver. And if Brady helps bring in Matthew Stafford, the AFC West is about to get even tougher. Before we break down what this means for the Broncos, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, back to the action. Here's the reality. The AFC West was already brutal. Last season, we had 3 playoff teams. Now, if the Raiders actually get their act together, we could be looking at the most competitive division in football. Think about it. Andy Reid and Mahomes running the Chiefs, the Chargers building around Justin Herbert, Sean Payton working with Bo Nix, and now a potentially dangerous Raiders team. But there's one big problem. Only so many teams can make the playoffs. If the Raiders get Stafford, it'll be tough to have 3 AFC West teams qualify again because we're all going to be beating each other up twice a year. That's a guaranteed war, every single week. Looking at the Broncos' schedule next year, things just got a lot harder. We used to count on 2 easy wins against the Raiders, but now, those aren't guaranteed anymore. Right now, the only gimme home games on our schedule are Jacksonville and Tennessee, and neither of those teams are exactly terrifying. Let's be honest, I'm not losing sleep over the New York Giants, and even that Dallas game doesn't seem all that scary. The Broncos will be competitive in most games next season, but here's the problem. We went from 4 easy wins to just 3, if the Raiders get Stafford. Now, let's talk about the real challenge, our road games. The AFC West is already tough, but if the Raiders actually become a competent team, things get even worse. Right now, the only road game that feels like a gimme is against the Colts. I also think Bo Nix is going to show everyone why he was the better pick over Jaden Daniels when they face off. And while some people are all in on C.J. Stroud, I think we match up well against Houston. Before we dive into more big news, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a Broncos update. Now, let's get back to it. One thing I can't see happening again? The Chargers sweeping us. We outplayed them in that first half last season, but things fell apart in the second. That can't happen again. The AFC West is turning into an all-out war zone, and the energy is real. The fact that the Raiders are becoming a real threat? That's bad news for everyone else. But here's the good news. Something big is changing in the NFL, and it might actually help the Broncos. For years, we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs getting all the calls. Ever since Travis Kelce started dating Taylor Swift, it's felt like the refs were working overtime for Kansas City. But now, the NFL is making a major change, introducing an electronic measuring system. Why is that a big deal? Well, remember that Buffalo Bills game? There were multiple first downs that magically got reversed. If the new system works as expected, those questionable calls should be gone. And if the Chiefs stop getting those extra helping hands from the refs, that's a huge advantage for Denver. This new electronic measuring system is a game changer. It takes away any room for refs to make those questionable calls that always seem to favor the Chiefs. So, while the AFC West is getting tougher, at least we won't have to deal with those rigged measurements anymore. Now, let's talk about what really matters: keeping Matthew Stafford out of Vegas. If the Raiders end up doing typical Raider things and somehow get Russell Wilson instead, that would be hilarious. Or maybe Stafford lands somewhere else. New York, perhaps. Anywhere but the AFC West. Honestly, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a solid quarterback, but not playoff ready in the next couple of years. So, let's hope the Raiders get obsessed with him, trade up, and waste a ton of picks. Or, if they do go after Stafford, let's pray it costs them multiple first-rounders. That's the kind of chaos we need to see. Before we get into the Broncos roster updates, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell icon. We're breaking down everything you need to know, so don't miss out. Alright, let's shift gears. Who's staying in Denver next season? Who's on the way out? Right now, we've got some big decisions coming up. At the NFL Combine, Broncos GM George Paton is set to meet with the agents of DJ Jones and Courtland Sutton, two players who could be key for the team's future. Sutton isn't exactly a game changer, but he's still a solid wide receiver one, and that's going to be crucial for Bo Nix's development. As for DJ Jones, guys like Zach Allen have openly said he's the best teammate they've ever had. That kind of leadership matters. Plus, Jones has been a beast at stopping the run, something Denver did really well last season. Right now, at the NFL Combine, the Broncos have one big job: fall in love with 4 potential draft picks and hope that one of them is still on the board when it's their turn at pick number 20. Every time we check social media, there's another report. The Broncos are meeting with this guy. Or, they've scheduled time with that guy. And suddenly, people assume that's their pick. But here's the reality. Last year, Denver met with 61 prospects at the Combine. Know how many actually became Broncos? 2. That's why you can't take every meeting as a sign. Sean Payton is playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. Sometimes teams meet with a player just to throw the league off. Other times, they purposely avoid a player they actually want, hoping he falls into their hands. So, don't get too caught up in every rumor. Before we dive deeper into the Broncos roster situation, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. We're bringing you everything you need to know. Now, let's talk about an interesting move. Drew Sanders shifting to inside linebacker. This could be a big deal for Denver's defense, but here's where things get even more interesting. When George Paton spoke at the Combine, he mentioned several players by name: Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Bo Nix, even Javonte Williams. But you know whose name he didn't say? Alex Singleton. That caught my attention. Singleton has been a key piece for the Broncos, so why not mention him? Maybe it was just an oversight. Or maybe he's not coming back. Cutting him would save Denver a good chunk of salary cap space, and maybe that's the direction they're leaning.